It is the Friday before the start of the NFL league year. A.J. Brown still an Eagle. Maxx Crosby still a Raider. Will it remain that way in the coming days? We'll take a look at both of those situations as those teams are fielding trade offers. Those are some of the star players that might be moving teams, but Bucky Brooks says there are some sleepers in the free agency market that you might be overlooking. He'll be with us later in the program to talk about them and hanging with Mr. Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, not a free agent, not eligible for a contract extension, but he's got some thoughts about Jonathan Gannon as the new defensive coordinator and the direction that the Packers might go in. Speaking of welcome inside with the Insiders, Ian Rappaport, Judy Batista, and me, Mike Garafolo, along with a cast of thousands. Maybe a little fewer. I mean, it's a Friday. We got who we could. I told you about Bucky Brooks. We've got Edgerrin Cooper. We've got a bunch of others joining the program as well to break down all of the news, including the news that we're waiting on with A.J. Brown and Maxx Crosby. I just mentioned those guys. Those teams have said, look, we're only going to trade those guys if we get the right offers. They haven't said that publicly. They have said that privately. Those discussions continue. Howie Roseman and John Spytek, the general managers of both of those teams, said we're only going to part with these guys if we get some great value. To this point, they have not gotten that value. So, Ian, give us the latest on, let's start with A.J. Brown here, because we know that there were a few suitors, including the Buffalo Bills, who wound up trading for D.J. Moore. They're out. The Rams, they're out. I think we're looking at the Patriots, and maybe that's it now?
Yeah, Patriots do seem to be the most interested in A.J. Brown right now, which obviously makes sense considering Mike Vrabel's connection to the former young superstar receiver that he had with the Tennessee Titans, and now obviously has been with the Eagles for the last several years while Vrabel has moved around a little bit. Head coach of the Patriots, reuniting would make a lot of sense. And yeah, there are some other teams in it. I know the Chargers certainly have had some interest, but all eyes here are on the Patriots and whether or not the Eagles can get the right value for A.J. Brown. He is an excellent receiver. He is due a lot of money. Generally, these types of blockbuster deals can involve the first-round pick, but they don't always. So it's really about whether these two sides can get together and find the right value. It also makes sense financially for the Eagles to trade him after June 1st just based on the cap hit, but the picks would be for this year. There's a lot going on here, Judy. I know the two sides would like to at least get some resolution soon.
Well, that's my question is at what point do the Patriots maybe say, okay, enough, we have to look at plan B now, this has gone on too long, if there's no resolution? At what is the cutoff point? Because you pointed out we've already seen teams pivot in other directions. So at what point do the Patriots, and if there are any other teams out there still thinking about A.J. Brown, pivot away? So I'm really interested not just in whether this trade gets done and what the value is, but the downstream effect when it gets done or if it does not get done.
Yep, A.J. Brown due this upcoming season. Ian said it was a boatload of money. It's $29 million, and it's going to be some salary cap pain for the Eagles, even more so if it's before June 1st, to make this trade. So for that, they're going to want great compensation. Ian, you talked about picks this year. If it's a first-round pick, which is the premium price to pay, the Eagles know it's 31 this year. If they get one next year potentially from the New England Patriots, you know it can't be much worse, so you got potential to make that pick that much better. There's a lot of discussions here. There's a lot of scenarios have been discussed, not only with the Patriots, but with multiple teams. They will continue here for the coming days. Perhaps we shall see A.J. Brown moved to another team. We talked about his relationship with Jalen Hurts. Can they coexist if there's not a move? Lots of questions for A.J. Brown that we're going to try to answer. Still some questions with Maxx Crosby. A ton of interest for the Raiders in their star pass rusher. What is the latest there, Ian? Because the Raiders have said, and Spytek said at the Combine, we expect him to be on the team. Maxx Crosby hasn't said much publicly at all. What do we expect here?
And I don't expect Maxx Crosby to say very much until and unless he gets traded. Now, he has not come out and said he wanted to trade, but clearly he has been through a lot with the Las Vegas Raiders, and a fresh start would make sense if the Raiders can get what they believe to be the right value. They have discussed wanting to rebuild the right way. A great way to rebuild is, one, with the number one overall pick, which they already have. Two, with the draft pick compensation, which would be at least a first-rounder and more for Maxx Crosby. Now, some of the interested teams, Dallas Cowboys are certainly interested. Baltimore Ravens are certainly interested. There are several other teams circling, and I would say similar to A.J. Brown, the teams involved would like some certainty knowing, is Maxx Crosby going to be on my team? What money and picks do I have allocated? Obviously, two of the biggest names that we are discussing could both be dealt before Sunday.
Well, and again, on the downstream effects, if you're one of the teams that's interested in Maxx Crosby and you don't land him, where do you turn? Do you turn to Trey Hendrickson, who is older? There are younger pass rushers who are going to be available, who are already available as free agents. So which way do you turn? Again, if we assume that Maxx Crosby is going to be moved at some point, and you would think it has to be pretty soon, which way do teams pivot if they don't get him? Again, A.J. Brown and Maxx Crosby are both the kind of players who are going to shape the direction of the market if they get moved. So we'll see in the next 24, 48 hours. Maybe by the end of the show, we will have some direction.
Meanwhile, Geno Smith, his time with the Raiders is over. We fully expected this with the Raiders having the number 1 overall pick, which they expect them to use on Fernando Mendoza. So he is set to be released at the start of the league year. Again, a fully expected move, but now a guy that teams that are in some quarterback need could explore. I know that he's at least in consideration in Minnesota. Some of the other places, Arizona needs a quarterback. Miami needs a quarterback. The Jets need a quarterback. Boy, wouldn't that be fun, Ian. What is the latest that you're hearing on Geno Smith in this release right here?
Yeah, this is really interesting because Geno Smith goes from a not very good starter, just with all due respect to Geno Smith, didn't play very good last year. Bad situation. Offensive line didn't block anyone. Offensive coordinator got fired midway through. Not a lot of talent there except for a couple star players. It was tough, and he did not play well enough. So as a $30+ million starter was not good value. As a $1 million backup with the Raiders paying the boatload of his salary, this is now excellent value. He is perfect bridge starter material, can come in, start for a little bit, maybe give way to a rookie, maybe get you through a little bit of a transition. And I know you were kind of laughing, but the Jets kind of do make sense, and it does seem like at least there'd be some. I know the fans would be kind of interested in Geno Smith potentially returning to the Jets, and Geno thought nicely of his time there. We'll see.
I mean, I was there the first time Geno was with the Jets, and wow, that would be quite something if he returned to the Jets. I looked this up today. Geno Smith's 35 years old already, so he joins this pool of like guys who would be bridge starters, 1 or maybe 2 year solutions. There's just this group now of like sort of mid-level quarterbacks, a whole bunch of them that are going to be available, and a whole bunch of teams that need that kind of guy. I am interested to see where Geno Smith goes. I will be shocked if he returns to the New York Jets, but wow, that would fill up the back pages.
Well, it's a different, I mean, ownership's the same, but it's a different regime, a different general manager, a different head coach, and IK Enemkpali not on the team anymore. If you don't know who I'm talking about, Google
Been a while.
it. Don't ask me how to spell it. I forget how to spell it. But that was a situation. $18.5 million, by the way, due to Geno Smith this upcoming season that the Raiders are going to have to eat. That's why Ian said he'd be cheaper for the next team, much like Kyler Murray and perhaps Tua Tagovailoa. I mentioned Kyler Murray here, the notable free agents, Kirk Cousins there, Geno Smith, we just talked about. Aaron Rodgers, no idea if he's playing. He's stringing us along an hour plus on McAfee and still wouldn't tell us. Hey, that's what Aaron does. And I mentioned Tua Tagovailoa, also expected to be amongst the group right here. So, Bucky Brooks, come on in here because the guy at the top of the list, Malik Willis, we talked about him potentially making a lot of money for a guy that folks had written off a couple of years ago. He's played well in spot duty for the Packers. Give us your best fits for Malik Willis.
Yeah, Malik Willis absolutely balled out of control during his brief stints with the Green Bay Packers. And because he played so well under Matt LaFleur, I think his brother Mike LaFleur and the Arizona Cardinals are going to be up on deck in terms of taking a look at his talents. When you think about the blueprint that LaFleur in Green Bay utilized to get him up and going, his brother can certainly sample that. Monty Ossenfort, general manager for the Cardinals, was director of player personnel when Malik was drafted to the Tennessee Titans. So there's some familiarity there, but also there's some weapons that could help him get started. Trey McBride being one, Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Wilson. There's enough to get him going. They surrounded around him that'll give them a chance to get going. But another team that has familiarity with him, the Miami Dolphins, John Eric Sullivan, Jeff Hafley, both were in Green Bay when Malik Willis was doing his thing. And so that could give them the confidence to know that, hey, we understand the strengths and weaknesses of the game. We know how to build a team around his talents while he's growing into the role. I think familiarity is everything because there's a trust and a connection that has to exist. When you're the Miami Dolphins, you're taking on a big rebuilding project. You want someone who understands how the program is going to operate. Malik Willis, his familiarity with this team, with this personnel, will help them get going. And finally, the Pittsburgh Steelers are interesting because if I'm Malik Willis, I want a stable franchise that's going to give me a full chance to grow into this role as a franchise quarterback. Mike McCarthy has done a great job developing quarterbacks throughout his tenure. You think about what he's done with Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, even going all the way back to his time with the New Orleans Saints with Aaron Brooks. He understands how to unlock these quarterbacks in a way in his scheme. I think if you're Pittsburgh, knowing that you don't have time to continue to wait on Aaron Rodgers, let's get Malik Willis. Let's build an offense around him, and let's do it with the guy who knows how to deal with young quarterbacks. To me, it makes perfect sense for the Steelers and Willis to link up when free agency spins.
The Cardinals have to eat a lot of money. So do the Dolphins with Tua and with Kyler. So to pay a ton of money to Willis on top of that just doesn't seem very feasible. So I don't think it's going to be a huge payday for Willis, but it could be a nice one and a good opportunity potentially for him to start if he lands in one of these places. Thank you, Bucky Brooks. Judy.
The Houston Texans agreed to a contract extension for Danielle Hunter. 1 year, $40 million, more than $30 million is guaranteed. Ties him to the Texans through the 2027 season. He had 15 sacks last year. Really, in 2 seasons with the Texans, he's been everything they could have hoped for. He's also paired with Will Anderson Jr., who's probably going to get a very nice extension himself very soon. And Nick Caserio has been a very busy guy these days. Texans also agreed to an extension with tight end Dalton Schultz. In 3 seasons with the Texans, he caught 194 passes for 1,944 yards. So 10 yards per reception exactly, and 10 touchdowns, Ian.
Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Rams were at work late last night. Something very nice for Rams fans to wake up to this morning. They agreed to terms with their own safety, Cam Curl, on a 3-year, $36 million contract extension to keep one of the top safeties off the market. Cam Curl gets a free agent type deal without going to free agency. The Rams keep one of their stars home and then do it again. This is one involving the offensive side of the ball. Tyler Higbee gets a 2-year deal with a max value of $8 million. Mike, just a couple deals for Tyler Higbee, but clearly someone that the Rams valued and wanted to stay with.
Meanwhile, Ian, the news you just brought to us a short while ago, Garrett Bradbury to the Bears. Bears had the Drew Dalman retirement just a couple of days ago. A surprise, so they had to fill the position. We talked about them potentially being in for Tyler Linderbaum, the free agent from the Ravens. Instead, they make the deal for Bradbury, who's one of the unsung heroes on that Patriots offensive line. And my understanding is he had a few teams, a few suitors to potentially land. So that's why the move is made now and made quickly. A 2027 fifth-round pick in exchange for Bradbury. Coming up, our Cameron Wolf going to talk about things in the AFC East right now, which is where that guy is not going to buy me. I guess he could potentially sign with the Jets or the Dolphins, but the former Bill and Patriots, Stephon Diggs, Wolf, going to be along to talk about the AFC East. And up next, Edgerrin Cooper has made some impact plays over his first 2 seasons in the NFL, including that one right there alongside Micah Parsons. We'll ask him about him, his new defensive coordinator, and all things at Green Bay. Edgerrin Cooper joining the Insiders next.
The Insiders is brought to you by Lay's, America's favorite chip since 1938.
That is Jonathan Gannon, the new Packers defensive coordinator. You're seeing him in the Arizona Cardinals. Red was the head coach there, recently hired this offseason as the new man running the Packers defense in place of Jeff Hafley. And one of the key pieces of that new defense joins us here. Welcome inside with the Insiders, Edgerrin Cooper, Packers star linebacker, along with me, Ian Rappaport, and Mike Garafolo. Edgerrin, first of all, thank you very much for hanging out with us. You see that man right there, Jonathan Gannon, the new man running your defense. What did you think of this hire, and have you spoke to him yet?
Yeah, we for sure already chatted it up, and just getting together, We talked a little bit. I'm just very excited, man, to see what's coming next. It's just a next step in the progress, and all this stuff is business. So you just gotta be ready for the next move coming up.
Your former defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, now the head coach with the Miami Dolphins. What do you want to see now from this defense under Gannon? What do you know about what he likes to do, and what do you think this defense needs to do to be successful moving forward?
Just using our tools all over, understanding the players that we have, and just putting everybody in the best position to succeed. And that's what we want to do, so we all on the same page and we can all play to the fullest.
So Micah Parsons is a little bit of a big presence in Green Bay. Obviously had the injury, ended his season prematurely, but I know he's been back in the building. I know you can always hear what's going on with him. But what was the most interesting thing for you about playing with Micah Parsons this year?
No, I saw all side of football, the person he is, the caring person he is, just checking in on everybody. He's always coming up to the facility, with a happy face, smiling, and just when he gets on the field, man, it just flips the switch. He's a monster out there, powerful, and it's just fun seeing him work and doing the things he do.
One of the big moves from the Packers recently, acquiring Micah Parsons, signing him to that monster contract. Now you're going to have some moves made. Some guys are going to depart. Some guys are going to come in. You, as a guy that's been on this team and a key part of the defense, how tuned in are you to the rumors? Like, I know we are going to be. We're going to be texting and calling as much as possible. Will you just kind of let it flow, or do you want to get the information yourself as well?
Well, it's a little bit of both, but I try to just focus on me right now. And once we get into that building, whoever we have in that building, that's who's going to come together and work to get to the goal that we want. So I feel like that's the easiest way to think about it and to further yourself and to being a great player.
Is this time, are there any nerves for you for this time? Because obviously you have guys like Quay who may or may not be back. Rashawn Gary is another one. Certainly his status has been up in the air. Are you nervous about your buddies? Or are you say, all right, I trust the organization. Whatever they do is fine. Like, how do you kind of handle what's going to go on the next week or so?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to trust the organization. You got to control what you could control. And it's business, man. It's tough things that happen, throughout the process, and you just have to, get over it and just play the next. Well, I was about to say play the next play, but you just got to be the next thing, and got to get back focused and just be there for the team. Do what you need to do.
Started all 16 games this past season, over 100 tackles. You had 87, I think it was, as a rookie, with a bunch of TFLs as well. Grade yourself. You talked about focusing on yourself. What do you need to do next season to take another step? What do you take from this past season that made you successful? I
just try in all phases, try to get a step better, getting stronger, and this being my third year coming up, I feel even more comfortable than I did last year. Just knowing the game, knowing the schemes and stuff like that. All that. Just trusting myself and just going out there, play full and fast, and just do what I got to do.
So the scouting combine was a couple weeks ago, and there was a lot of Texas A&M dudes in Indianapolis. A lot of them running really well, performing the drills. I mean, you are one of the OGs of a really, really good program. How much were you watching? What did you think of your alma mater representing in Indy?
Oh, I'm proud of those guys. That's the legacy and stuff I want them to lead. And like my guy Torian York, when he first came to Texas A&M, man, he worked his butt off every single day. And I never seen a person watch so much film, stuff like that. And just seeing guys actually strive for what they want, it just is no better feeling than it.
You guys had a great rivalry with the Packers this past season, or with the Bears, excuse me. So this Bears-Packers rivalry was stoked a little bit. It was carried into the postseason. Will you kind of, Rocky and Rocky IV had Drago up on his mirror while he was training. Will you have the Bears on your mind this offseason as you get ready for 2026?
As long as I'm Packer, it's going to be every year, man. They're a great team, and it's just we got to keep the rivalry going. We're going to keep the same mindset and go, try to handle the things we got to do. Go Pack, go.
Edgerrin, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate you, man. You got a big off season ahead for you and an even bigger season coming in your third year. Thanks for hanging with us. Go back on vacation. Don't think about football until it's time to get back in the building.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
A whole bunch of veterans are set to get paid next week. That is a future star who's going to have a really nice payday in the coming years. But who's getting paid this year? Our good friend Bucky Brooks joins us in just a little bit to tell you all the guys who are going to get the bag, especially if maybe you haven't heard of them. Anyway, stay with us on The Insiders. The Cleveland Browns did what they usually do, however you want to say it, restructuring the contract of potential starting quarterback Deshaun Watson, $46 million, still fully guaranteed, still fifth year in a row, but they did a simple restructure, creating $36 million of salary cap space and kind of whittling down that $80.7 million cap charge to make it somewhat palatable. Watson, of course, going to be competing for the starting job this year for the Cleveland Browns. Meanwhile, we had some pre-free agent action from the Los Angeles Chargers. You may or may not have woken up to this news, which I hit send while sitting at the breakfast table. Tyler Biadasz signed a 3-year, $30 million deal. Got cut by the Commanders, gets a raise with the Los Angeles Chargers, filling a big hole. One of the top centers, Mike, now fully off the market.
The New Orleans Saints do what they do, did what they did, whatever Ian was trying to say. They always restructure contracts because they always have to get under the salary cap. But this one was a little bit different. This saves the Saints $8 million in cap space. But it wasn't a simple convert the base salary into a signing bonus, which is usually how this is done. This was broken up as a base salary treated as a signing bonus that's not paid out yet. Basically, it gives the Saints flexibility in the case of Kamara not being with the team, which could be via trade or via retirement or via release. It's a situation to watch, as is this one. Taylor Decker, the Lions left tackle for the last 10 years, making an announcement that he asked for and received his release after conversations with the team that he said at some point were a surprise to him. Didn't sound like the best possible exit, but Decker, wanting to end on the right note, made it clear in that statement he is out as the Lions tackle, Judy.
All right, let's take a look at the top available free agents. This is according to Greg Rosenthal, who listed 101 NFL free agents. This is the top 10. Of course, Malik Willis is number one. We expect Kyler Murray to be on that list as well. There's a wide receiver. There's some pass rushers here. Now, those are the big name free agents that we're going to be talking about next week. Let's bring back our Bucky Brooks. He's going to talk about maybe some sleeper free agent candidates we should be keeping an eye on as well. Bucky, welcome back to the show. Let's start out with your sleeper tight end. Who is it?
Isaiah Likely from the Baltimore Ravens. He is a player that I think there's going to be a lot of interest about him. More importantly, there's going to be a big impact that he delivers wherever he goes. You're talking about an ultra-athletic tight end, a guy that creates mismatches on the perimeter. He is someone that is simply hard to guard when you think about his athletic prowess, his route running ability, and his playmaking ability down the field. Given an opportunity to have a feature role, maybe as a tight end one, I look for him to deliver a huge return on the investment. Look for him to sign with a team that really wants to feature him prominently as a mismatch creator on the perimeter.
All right, you also have a running back on your list. Who is it?
Oh, Tyler Algier from the Atlanta Falcons. And this is a big body banger that loves to run downhill. And I think people forget his rookie season, he had a 1,000-yard campaign. Now, Bijan Robinson comes over. He's an all-pro talent. So Algier had to settle in as an RB2. But even in that complimentary role, you saw the flashes. Given a chance to be a lead back, he is someone who certainly can deliver a 1,000-yard campaign. And looking at the draft with some uncertainty about the running back class, look for Algier to be a guy that is an interesting free agent that gets a lot of interest on the open market.
Now, there were edges on Greg Rosenthal's list, but you have one that maybe is not on his list. Who is it?
Kayvon Chasen from the New England Patriots. And having been around Kayvon when he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, I can tell you over the last 2 years, he has improved more than any other edge defender that I've seen. When you think about how he played it, the Raiders had 5 sacks, 7.5 sacks during the regular season for the New England Patriots, but added 3 more during the postseason in leading the Patriots on that Super Bowl run. When you look at his speed, his power, his knack for being able to knock the ball loose, and the relentless effort, we talk about these underrated edge rushers going somewhere and popping up. Look for Chasen to maybe emerge as a double-digit sack artist in his next franchise.
He was one of the big contributors for the New England Patriots last season. Bucky, thank you very much. You can read Bucky's entire list of sleeper free agents, NFL.com/Scouts Notebook.
The Patriots made some news earlier in the week when Stephon Diggs took to the old Twitter machine and Instagram and officially said goodbye to their standout wideout. 33-something years old, do a ton of money. Patriots decided to move on a year earlier rather than a year later. They have informed Stephon Diggs of his release, which will be made official at the start of the league year, leaving a big-time hole in the receiver room and making people wonder if this was eventually going to be filled by A.J. Brown. Our friend Cam Wolfe, who spent a lot of time with the Miami Dolphins and the rest of the teams in the AFC East, joins us here. Cam, I know you got a lot in this division. I know you're going to tell us everything that's going to happen in the next week or so. So, tell us.
Ian, I'll start with Stephon Diggs. The understanding I have is the Patriots made this decision based on cost over future value. They thought he was a great dude who helped them a lot. They just didn't think he was worth wide receiver 1 money. He'll be 33 later this year. They do want to go get a wide receiver 1. And one of the guys you mentioned, A.J. Brown's a name I'm watching for them all next week. Relationships matter with Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, and he has an extremely strong relationship with A.J. Brown. They spent 3 years together in Tennessee, and they would love if they had an opportunity to trade for him. The Eagles' value is extremely high. Does that change on either side here in the next week or so? That's something to watch because the Patriots would love to get a proven weapon like A.J. Brown. If not, I expect them to be big players for Alec Pierce, who's expected to be the top receiver in free agency. The numbers he could get could be eye-popping. I was told in Combine, remember last year Milton Williams was the big target. The Patriots kept going higher and higher to get their guy. Well, Vrabel's best friend Luke Fickell coached Alec Pierce at Cincinnati. Another relationship there that could be in play as we look into free agency next week. Now let's go to the Buffalo Bills, who made a big move to trade for DJ Moore this week. And look, a big part of the thinking there is they checked in on A.J. Brown. They checked in on Alec Pierce. They felt like the price for DJ Moore was good. But this wasn't a settled situation. This was Joe Brady's first big marker on the team. He coached Moore in Carolina for 2 of his best years, and they think that he can be wide receiver 1 level production over 1,000 yards there in this offense. Looking forward, my understanding is they only have space to sign one of Connor McGovern and David Edwards in free agency. Their guard and center that are about to hit the market. It could be one or the other. McGovern's market is interesting because Tyler Lindenbaum at center is expected to get a huge number, potentially over 20 plus. Where is that second tier center market? The people I thought and talked about in Indianapolis thought that, maybe McGovern was shooting for 15 plus million, whereas the Bills were shooting for a little bit closer to 10. We'll watch that to come. As far as the Dolphins, this may be more of a subtracting than adding offseason for them. They made a few moves today to become salary cap compliant. One of them was not Tua Tagovailoa. I'm told this should be a quiet weekend for them. They will resume Tua talks early next week, but don't expect any dump of him this weekend. They're still holding out hope they can trade him, but most people in the league believe they will ultimately release him and move forward, and he could be a candidate for some of the teams that we talk on later today. One other name I'm watching, Minkah Fitzpatrick. He has been a trade target the last couple of weeks. Maybe he's a guy over the next week that lands on a contenders market for maybe a day 3 pick. And finally, let's go to the New York Jets, who certainly have a lot of money and a lot of needs, but let's center it at quarterback, where they did not have good play with Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. It sounds like neither of those guys are going to be part of the solution in 2026. So who is? I don't know if a clear front runner at this time, but there are several. several options, and you look at Tua, who could potentially be released. You look at Geno Smith, who was released, and Kyler Murray. Of those, Kyler's probably the most intriguing, but they may have competition with Minnesota with him. One executive told me in Indianapolis, keep an eye on Frank Reich's connections there. You've got Carson Wentz, you've got Jacoby Brissett, among others, who played for Frank Reich, their new offensive coordinator. They may sign multiple quarterbacks here in free agency, and maybe open competition is in store for the New York Jets going into 2026.
Cameron, great stuff. That is an excellent, excellent AFC East roundup. My notebook and my brain is all filled up. Bringing it as always. Cam Wolf, great stuff. Go enjoy the weekend, which we now learn will not.
Remember back in, I think it was November, Ian reported that Joe Mixon wouldn't play for the rest of the season. Joe Mixon doubted it. In fact, there was a community note on Ian's post on X. That wound up being incorrect.
I remember.
The community note wound up being incorrect. Ian's report was correct. Mixon did not play, now released as a member of the Texans after not playing at all last season. Meanwhile, the other day on the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers said Teron Johnson is one of the best players in the NFL. Life comes at you fast. The Bills have released Teron Johnson. I expect there to be interest, and not just from the Steelers, potentially with Rodgers saying, hey, if you sign that guy, maybe I'll come back. But Dane Jackson, Taylor Rapp, and Curtis Samuel, a bunch of veterans, also released by the Buffalo Bills, now looking for work elsewhere. Again, I expect Johnson to find some. This was us during the break. Yeah, color coordinated. Your thoughts, Ian?
I mean, I'll say this. Me and Cam secretly planning this was excellent work. You and Rank looking like before and after, not as good work.
Judy?
I don't understand why nobody else is wearing a peach-colored jacket on this show.
I have one.
Judy, you're just
I could go get it on right now.
Yeah, quick. You got 30 seconds.
I wear it to parties in the spring and sometimes the summer.
Yeah. Can you make it back in 30? Well, now it's 25. Judy, no. We could never replicate you. That's why. Nobody even tries. Cam Wolf, the only one ready for that picture. All right, look. We got to go. We got to get some sleep. We're going to be on a bunch starting on Sunday. Be with us late then. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all day. Good Morning Football through Free Agent Frenzy, the Insiders. I'm going to bed. Bye.